I can see that I'm coming up for some reason. I am quite low.
It's quite hard. I'm having to blast my ears out on the other two
Yeah.
and struggle to hear you.
Yes. Due to the unique way that
Apparently,
Discord
David says
chooses
Tim and
to do
John are
things.
quiet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know because Discord, just for change, is installing a big load of updates. Not opening for me.
I've given up on the client. I just go straight for the
Clever.
website now.
And your dad says that we're both quiet.
Yes. Well, I think you may just have to put up with it.
Is that a pop shield you've got in front of your microphone?
Yes.
That's probably enforcing a certain social distancing that we might not need, but...
Can you say something, Nick?
Oh.
I had porridge for breakfast with a banana.
Very healthy, very filling.
Yeah, was that enough words? I had dried apricots cut into it and a little bit of granola on top for some crunch.
God, you're so healthy.
And honey. How's the running going, Darren?
I want to join in, but I didn't have anything for breakfast. It's going all right, thanks. I've settled into twice a week. I found that trying to do it every other day was just... I was just getting physically and mentally worn out. So, Tim's back.
How is that? Is that
exactly the same.
I'll shout for the people at the back of the room. I can't literally get any closer to
iron
the
this.
microphone than this.
And there's some hum. Yeah,
Oh,
some
and now
earth
I
hum.
can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to exit and come back.
Darian, you've got earth hum?
No, there's no connection here to anything.
I have.
You can hear it.
I
Well,
can
it
hear
could-
it hum.
well, I can't, which does suggest it's me, but I don't know where it would be coming from because,
Oh, look, still there.
well, I'm afraid I don't have. I don't have anything. I have no tools to use if it's me. It's already running on battery. The only wire is this one. It's sitting on a plastic box. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to sit it on a copper box or something. Tim's back.
Darian, you may possibly need to restart the recording because it's basically I can't hear any of you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I don't know that restarting the recording will help, but I've no objection to trying it.
Hold on. Oh, hold on. No,
Holding on, holding on.
Yep. No, it's okay.
1,
It's
2, 3,
Windows.
4, 5.
Oh, it's Windows. That's where you're going wrong. I can't believe you come on the PC Pro podcast using Windows. I'm sure no one else is.
Yep. One loyalist.
Though actually, I've just been reading Nick's feature on Power Toys, and it seems like they have plumbed in most of the features that I miss into Windows now, albeit as optional extras rather than core components. Nick has nothing to say about that. In fact, he might be frozen. No.
No, I'm here. I was just wondering if Tim had an echo now, actually.
It's 1 o'clock, by the way.
I shouldn't have an echo because it's a different recording. No, I shouldn't have.
Anybody else?
I
Echo?
can't hear an echo. You're
No.
just
Okay, just
defaultedly
me.
too quiet.
Guys, we're just going to have to go through, go for this and accept some
That's better.
imperfections in the in this.
What, for the first time in 15 years, we're going to have to accept imperfections in the PC Pro podcast?
I think we are.
More than 15, but Lee's not here to set us straight.
Okay, let's go. Hello and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is the 19th of June 2025. I'm Tim Danton, editor of PC Pro, and with me today I have Mr. John Honeyball,
Good afternoon.
Darian Graham-Smith,
Good afternoon, everybody.
and a man I've not actually seen, well actually since October last year, Mr. Nick Rawlinson.
I was going to say 15 years, but we did see each other in October last year. Hello.
It
It was a very good day too.
made a big impression on you. Okay, good stuff. Well, actually, we're going to kick off with you, Nick, and the extraordinary story you have to share.
Yeah, this is Theo Brown on Twitter, who had a bad night's sleep I'm going to actually read him his tweet because it got 15,000 likes, 2,500 retweets. Woke up because my AI controlled bed is too cold. Went to adjust temperature and I can't because the Sleep 8 app is currently broken. Can't adjust by hand because I have a Pod 3 and not the upgraded Pod 4 with physical controls rather. Now I am stuck in a cold bed. This feels dystopian. Most of us will throw on a blanket, but AI is now becoming part of beds, and I thought this was a gimmick, but actually there's loads and loads of companies doing it. John's nodding his head, obviously knows something about it. Has got really valid uses like tracking for sleep apnea signals, restlessness, and of course you can integrate it with things like smartwatches, so you can give yourself a sleep score, and thermostats. So if it's getting too cold, you could turn on the heating. It's not cheap. The AI subscription for this one's £17 a month. The mattress starts about 2,000. Yes, John. And the mattress starts at about 2,800. And if you've got an optional extra blanket, so you can have the same temperature either side of the sandwich, that's another £800. It is a lot of money, and my worry is not so much that I'm spending that money. And while there's no indication that Sleep 8 is ever going to disappear, with all of these things that we buy that attach to our phones and have a subscription. What happens if the company decides end of life or they go out of business? Are you basically cold all night because you can't do anything?
When the guy says this feels dystopian, he's right, but not in the way I think he might have meant. This is an enormous escalation of what I was previously aware of in terms of techie, smart homey, AI stuff. And the thing that I have an awful lot of reactions to this, but one of them is if is the technology built into the mattress because we are supposed to replace our mattresses every couple of years.
Well, looking on the site, there's various components that you can buy, and you can actually, it would appear, use your own mattress for some of the different configurations. There's a really clever base to the bed which will detect when you're snoring, so it will actually lift the mattress very slightly to
Don't need that.
stop you snoring.
I already get complaints.
One of your sleeping companions. It can shake your side of the bed without shaking the other side of the bed to wake you up in the morning. Some of them have got built-in surround sound. So it's a really, really technical and fantastic looking setup. But you're right, we do need to change our mattress every so often. So obviously, if it's component based, that does make it a little bit cheaper.
I think as a service to readers, however,
I'm going to pretend that I can tell what anyone is doing because all three of you are frozen.
As a service to our listeners, I will just say the mattresses do not need to be changed every 2 years. I don't know where you got that from, Darian.
Probably from a mattress shop.
I think, well, actually, John, you're probably an expert on this kind of thing because, of all your work for the various...
let's just say, I think the idea of an AI-driven mattress is sort of almost laughably bad for the simple reason that, as Nick quite correctly identifies, what guarantees have you got that the software's going to be there, the service is going to be there in 3, 4, 5 years' time, especially if this company implodes and you're left with a completely non-working solution. I think this is gimmickry gone mad, frankly. Yes, there are some health benefit things to it, but then we've had electromechanically adjustable beds for years, and they've been used in hospitals and prop you up and all of this stuff. If you want to do sleep apnea, I'm not really sure your bed is the right way of doing it. Best thing to do is to get yourself a proper sleep apnea test and then look at the data you can get out of a CPAP or an APAP machine. It's far better than trying to measure this stuff through vibrations through your bed. I think the whole thing is just a bit kind of crazy, and to me smells of VC funding, trying to get a unique angle in the market, get some PR coverage, and pray you don't run out of money.
Well, it's just also, we need to build in redundancy for precisely the reason that Nick is talking about, which is that you have to assume, and it's completely wrong to assume that these companies are going to be here in the 7 to 8 years of lifetime of your mattress. You can't know that. So let's just assume that something is going to go wrong and build a backup. I can't believe I'm saying this build a backup into our mattresses or any IoT device so that you actually have some control. It's like having a smart light, but also having a switch that you can use. Is that so unreasonable?
To be fair to them, he does say that the upgraded Pod 4 does have physical controls. So it only took them 3 iterations before they had the idea of, having a hot-cold switch on the actual thing itself.
I'm not entirely against the idea of an AI mattress. I think there, as I say, there are some benefits, and there's an awful lot of surface area there in which you could embed sensors. And if it does integrate with other things in the house, then I'm all for it. I'm not the greatest fan of AI, but I do think there are benefits to this product. And unfortunately, this is the story that brought it to our attention. But it seems like, there is a lot of innovation going on here. And if you're going to put AI on anything, why not put it in everything?
Is it really AI, do we know, or is it just like buzzword AI, which really means a simple algorithm that goes, if it's too hot, make it colder, vice versa? I can't imagine it interfaces with, ChatGPT to sort through the history of, tens of thousands of copyrighted beds to discover how best to sleep.
This is the standard thing, isn't it? I've just turned my mic up to see if that helps. This is a standard thing where what you and I, with our grey hair, or at least in my case, grey hair, would have called machine learning is now called AI, because AI is sexy and machine learning sounds a little bit sort of 1996. But yeah, I mean, the data is going to be collected. It's going to be sent up to a cloud service. There's going to be some back-end process that's going to hoover through it, looking for trends and so forth. I would be an awful lot happier if I knew, and I have not looked at this product, but if it was actually hooked into something serious like Apple Health, for example, and the processing was done in that, or Samsung's health platform or Google's health platform.
How about this, John? How about actually having an open platform that's rather than a proprietary one, so that people can actually do something about it if something does go wrong?
Yeah, but the point here, of course, is that these companies are wanting to get the return on their investment and locking you into their product or their upgrades. But these are not about. These have never been about open platform type of approaches. They have always been about getting as much going as possible, generating as much code as possible, hosting it somewhere, data mining the hell out of it, and hoping that maybe at some point you've got some data set that you can flog to somebody else, or even better, charge for data mining this information. Oh, you want to know what your sleep apnea value is? That's an extra bit on your subscription and so forth. And that flies in the face of any kind of an open platform.
Yes, you're quite right, and God, the trouble is, this is the constant balance that we will be fighting for the next century, 2 centuries, for the rest of our lives, the rest of the life of this planet, where we have got, on the one hand, this need for an open architecture, so that everything just works and we aren't reliant on selfish. I'm not criticising them; they are, by their nature, selfish companies. And actually the demands of the needs of the consumers who want to have good value. They want to have something that is guaranteed to have a lifetime. And ultimately what happens historically is we get legislation. And although everybody says, red tape, I hate legislation, actually there is a lot of use to it, because it means that we as consumers, and I use that in the wider term to include businesses as well, we as consumers actually get rights. We aren't just picked upon and used. And we are very much at the start of this in terms of the technology companies and big tech, and all the tech bros just cuddling up to whoever the latest president is, so they get all the perks.
I have to quote from Ian Rutson, who's live on our Discord server, where you're of course welcome to come along every week live, and he says, if it learns from previous night's sleep, is that a memory foam mattress?
Oh dear.
Which I thought was really rather good for a Thursday lunchtime.
Come on, Ian, I'm trying to make a serious point, and you're coming here with jokes. All right. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to say about this AI mattress that has not been said?
I think we've said considerably more than needed to be said already.
All right, okay. Let us move on to. We've already got a bit of politics. So, what's that in your hand, Darian?
Yes, well, Michael Deere actually seems to have read the room quite well. He predicted we were going to talk about this, I believe. This is, of course, the T1 Phone 8002 Gold version, which to you and me is probably going to be more colloquially known as the Trump phone. This is the latest grift, business offering from your favourite president and mine, Mr. Donald Trump. He has announced that he's going to launch his own phone and his own mobile provider. And it all looks like it's been planned out and kind of put together with the degree of professionalism you'd expect. So, for example, the press release says the T1 phone will be released in August. The website says September. It's called the Gold version. There is no other version, so it's not really very clear why they've gone with that particular name. On the website, you can see a lovely Photoshop of what appears to be the front and back of two different phones. It is very clearly not any sort of real photograph. There's strange dots all over it and unusual spacing. If you follow the social media feed, then you can look at ostensibly the same phone, but in this case it's obviously an iPhone where someone has photoshopped out the Apple logo and put the word Trump there instead. What do we know about the hardware? Well, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have both several times assured us that it's proudly designed and built in the United States. Now, if that's going to have happened and happen within the next 3 months, then that's an absolute miracle, because John is shaking his head because he knows, as we all do, the US doesn't have anything like the appropriate raw materials and manufacturing capacity to mass produce a handset in time for launching, even if September is correct. There's no way on earth. And it is, to be clear, I mean, the specifications that they've advertised are pretty decent. 6.8-inch AMOLED display, 120 hertz refresh rate. I'm not quite sure what the processor is supposed to be, but it's got a 500 milliamp hour battery, 3 cameras, including only 2 cameras, not including a zoom. But still, the specification seems fairly decent, and it's quite specific, which is why internet sleuths have already pointed out it's noticeably exactly the same as a Chinese phone called the Revel 7 Pro 5G, which you've been able to buy for about 6 months now. The Revel 7 has an RRP of $250, but you can buy one on Amazon right now for $170. The Trump phone, meanwhile, costs $499. So if you want to show your loyalty to Mr. Trump, or President Trump, I guess we must say, then you'll be paying a healthy, it looks like, $250 premium for the privilege. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Unless otherwise indicated, says the website, all sales are final and non-refundable. So we hope you enjoy your phone. And if you want to sign up for the accompanying mobile service, which is, I think it's called Trump Mobile, with the kind of creativity we expect from this gentleman. It's got one tariff only, which is, because he is the 47th president of the US and was previously the 45th, it's $47.45 per month, and that gets you 20 gigabytes of data, which is an awful deal. So basically, this is a wonderful opportunity for people who have more money than, than caution, to show their loyalty in the most kind of financial sense towards Donald Trump. And just to be clear, by the way, before, I know Tim is aching to jump in and explain so much about this, but you can put down $100 now, so that if the phone doesn't come out, then you're still going to basically lose your deposit.
Okay, so I'm just going to pick you up on a couple of things, actually, because so that $47.45, I hadn't realised, by the way, that hadn't clicked that it was $47.45. But yes, of course, it's so obvious.
Most normal people aren't quite so obsessed with those numbers as Donald Trump is.
It doesn't actually. You makes you wonder, in 10 years' time, when that value is entirely different. Will this be going anyway? But this isn't really anything to do with Donald Trump or even his son. This is, if you look at the blurb, it says Trump Mobile, its products and services are not designed, developed, manufactured, distributed or sold by the Trump Organization or any of their respective affiliates or principals. T1 Mobile LLC uses the Trump name and trademark pursuant to the terms of a limited license agreement, which may be terminated.
Oh, of course. I mean, you didn't think Donald Trump went out and slaughtered his own steaks, did you, when he was selling those things? No, it's just a complete, like, the cheapest, laziest sort of scam. Just put the name on it and count the cash.
Yes, if any lawyers are listening, the scam is very much a personal opinion of Darren Graham-Smith. I'll send you his address if you wish to send to get in contact. But the other thing I was going to say is it's not a very high-end phone these days, and the way you can tell it often is actually by the cameras, and weirdly by the fact it's got a micro SD slot.
And a headphone slot, a 3.5mm headphone socket.
Which screams, as everyone's been saying, kind of Shenzhen technology, and in this case, it seems to be traced back to a company called Wingtech. But I looked at those specs, and they are quite limited, really, in terms of something that's going to come out. We don't know the processor, other than it's got 8 cores, like every single other phone processor in the world, and it's got a 50 meg wide camera and a 2 meg macro camera. Those are, if you see those in the specs of a phone you're buying, and you're paying over £200 or $200 for that, do not buy that phone, because that's almost like a big signal saying not a good phone, not a good phone.
As if the gold trim and the word Trump on the back didn't do it for you.
And the things like the 120 hertz AMOLED panel, that's just natural these days. This is like a go-to panel, so there's nothing special about that whatsoever.
In fairness, I think if you buy an iPhone, you don't get 120 hertz AMOLED panels, so there is something to it.
No, you're quite right. In the iPhone world, which exists in an entirely different universe, you have to pay more for some reason for these luxuries, which are now just absolutely bog standard in a £300 phone. But having said that, yeah, probably the panel will be the best thing about this one. Okay, John, are you going to order one of these?
No. I do really applaud people who try to do something really innovative and different in the phone market, rather than just a sort of a me too. And we've mentioned it many times, and one of my favourite lower end mobile phones, of course, is by Fairphone. Those crazy Dutch people. I was yesterday in the Netherlands, so getting my top up of crazy Dutch people. But I wasn't visiting Fairphone, I have to say. But Fairphone is great because you can take a small screwdriver and take the whole thing apart and repair it yourself. Replace the battery, replace the camera, replace everything. And that is a really interesting USP, a really interesting way of working. And I was visiting a corporate client for some consultancy a few weeks ago, and they were about to buy a bunch of phones, and I said, how many are you buying? And they said 20. I said, well, buy 21 Fairphones and keep one in the cupboard as a stash of spare parts, which you can then order the bits in. And it's a very logical way of doing it. I mean, JCB has done obviously badge engineered phones, but they were trying to do something which was very rugged and waterproof and so forth. And again, you can see the sort of industrial need for that. Even some high-end stuff has been attempted in the past, like Red cameras, which are very famous for their digital cinema cameras in Hollywood, and now part of Nikon for about the last year or so. Red did a mobile phone, an Android phone. And it wasn't just a horrible badge exercise. They really did try to do some interesting optics and some interesting 3D reticular screen on it. Now, they were trying hard. It didn't succeed long term, but you could see what they were trying to do. This is just blatant rip-off, this Trump phone. It is taking a bog standard piece of mediocrity and slapping the badge on it and selling it out with the under license from the Trump organization. I don't have any problem with a company doing something under license. It happens all the time, but the pricing is hilarious. I think we can argue whether the gold finish is tasteful or not, but not for me to say. Having been in Trump Tower, I think I would say it probably fits the brand quite well. So as far as I'm concerned, I hope it flops.
Can I just throw in 2 seconds of research? I should have done this earlier. The processor is, get ready for this, Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. Can you imagine a phone coming out, in the end of 2025 or mid to late 2025 with a Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 in it?
No, well, I think it's up to Gen 3, isn't it? And it's a very mid-range processor, that one.
Well,
So
6 I
that's-
think is less than mid-range, isn't it?
Yeah, seven for me is roughly mid-range.
Yeah.
So yeah, six is below mid-range. You're right. But to be Gen 1, I'm pretty sure that's poor. So let me just see if I can tempt Nick into this deal. If I tell you, Nick, that you also get roadside assistance and and for your 4745, that is. But you also there is one good thing, and I do think actually this isn't me criticising. You do get, if you are trying to target this at the military personnel and their families, and we know this is a big thing in the US. It does make sense to offer international free calls to those places where they might be, and that's also part of the deal. So now, with all that laid on, Nick, I would like to know whether you will be buying this.
I'm not in the market for a mobile phone from any manufacturer. My phones last for many, many, many years. I only upgraded my iPhone when the 6S stopped updating to the latest OS, and I would still be using it if it did still update. So I'm not upgrading for that reason. In terms of tariff, I pay 10 quid a month and get 60 gig. So I'm fairly happy with the tariff that I'm on. In terms of roadside assistance, for £17 a month with my bank, I get roadside assistance, a network rail card, and a free treat at Greg's every week. So I'm also not in the market for.
So you get a free treat at
Greg's every week. I get loads. Cinema ticket every other week. It's great.
Okay.
You should definitely join a bank, but that does mean I'm not in the market, unfortunately, for any of those products. So I'm going to stick.
Which bank is it, Nick? I think we
Monzo.
deserve to know. Sorry?
Monzo. Well, it's Monzo, that particular one, the max tariff. Is this turning into an ad read? Do you want to know what I get for my £17?
But not if it's a huge long laundry list.
No, well, I get all sorts. There's here we go, max. Interest, virtual cards, partner perks with 14 people. No, 14 times I've used it. Cinema tickets at View, annual rail card, Greg's treat. Did used to get Pizza Express, but that's just left. Phone cover. So if I drop my phone in a river, new phone.
Oh, I see. Not a phone cover.
Okay. Yeah, not a phone cover. So I'm quite happy with that.
Okay. All right. So it's 0 from 2 on the Trump phone. Quickly, Darian, would you like to say whether you're going to be buying this or not?
I'm trying to think of any conceivable reason why any person ever would, except that they want to have the flashy, gold, vulgar, tasteless mark that they have more money than pride, and that they are going to abase themselves and use the worst phone for the worst price with the worst tariff they can. So it's not for me, but I'm afraid it's going to sell millions.
It won't. It won't. People, when it comes down to it, will not be buying this. Even a Trump loyalist will not be buying this. They'll read the first review where it gets 2 stars, 1 star, and they will just go, "Oh no, completely out." That's if it ever even gets released, because I would put some heavy question marks on that as well. And just in case anyone is in any doubt, I will not be rushing out to buy this phone, although obviously I'm not American either, so that is going to be part of it. And can I just also say to the Trump marketing team, this only makes sense if you're going to go really... surely if you're going to have a gold phone, it's got to be premium. Isn't that the only logical thing to do? Anyway.
I wonder if they sell it in Russia. The global reach for this is going to be interesting, isn't it?
Well, you get free calls to where the American have military bases, and my bet at the moment is that America does not have a military base in Russia. Okay, John, though, you have an exciting update for us.
Well, yes, it's one of those interesting things. This is a little short tale of pondering, which is, if you look back over let's look back over the history of the 30 years of PC Pro so far, yeah, and we've had hardware improvements and we've had software improvements, and by software obviously I mean operating systems and platforms, but also app improvements, and the two have really kind of gone in lockstep. What I mean by that is that when something new has come to the market, it's quite often the case that you need to go through a few generations of the hardware and a few generations of the OS and software and tools and so forth as well. Just look at where we were with Windows moving forward, or mobile phones, or Android, or whatever. But this is an interesting one because I'm talking to you about Apple Vision Pro again, which is one of my, I know, actually I'd even go as far as to say the most lovely thing I've got in terms of the tech world stuff around me. And I use it every day or two. I use it now for working on my laptop. I just bring up this enormous screen in front of me, and it's incredibly productive. And I can do that from a 14-inch laptop in front of me. It's very transportable. And things like the cinema experience is the best cinema experience you'll get in any cinema anywhere in the world, irrespective of technology, and so on and so forth. But the AR stuff is really interesting. But I think it was talked about last week, which is this new Apple branding of 26 is the new version for all of their operating systems and tools and so forth. But because it's reflecting that it will be 25 to 26 year for the platform. But what's really interesting is, it was talked about last year, this new Apple Glass stuff, very, very high power capabilities. And it really has come out of the Vision AR platform. And by that I don't mean necessarily the hardware, but the AR three-dimensional platform that Apple is building. And as I said months and months ago, this is going to feed across into a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of implementations and so forth. And we're starting to see it now with the other tools, the phone and so forth. But Vision Pro has now reached basically version 3 of the operating system and the dev tools. And it's astonishing that all of the things that you really wanted to happen, even which we thought might be beyond the capability of the hardware, are now working. You can now have multiple people in the same room sharing the same virtual space if they've both got Vision Pro headsets on. So you can now do, cooperative three-dimensional AR environments, which is just mind scrambling when you actually see it working, because you're both in the same space, both seeing and manipulating the same 3D objects, and it's still rock solid and incredibly powerful. Just a little taster of some of the things. You can now place objects anywhere in geolocated three-dimensional space, and they stay there. So you can place like a picture frame with a Van Gogh, if you had such a thing, in a wall in a picture frame, walk around the house, and it all gets properly occluded, and you come back to it and it's still there. But it's still there even when you reboot the headset or go away or come back again. And they really are getting the whole sort of vocabulary and means of dealing with objects in three-dimensional space is truly, truly remarkable. And so all of that is really, really good. But the interesting thing is the hardware is perfectly capable of supporting this. I don't need new Apple Vision Pro hardware to make all of this stuff work. I'd like it to be lighter. I'd like it to have a glasses version. I'd like to have all of those things. But in terms of the platform and the capability and where it's going, it's all doable today. And other people are getting on board. Logitech has just announced something called Muse, which looks like a pen, but it's actually a highly accurate three-dimensional pen and drawing tool that you can move around in 3D space. That's coming soon. PlayStation did the VR2 Sense controllers, which you can move around in 3D space. That's now supported on the Vision Pro platform. And all of these things are all starting to come together as you would expect from a V3. And we know, just look at the history of Windows, look at the history of most anything. Version 1 is something out the door, version 2 is kind of getting a bit better, and V3 is where it gets really polished. And Apple Vision Pro 26, which is their V3, is remarkable. And the stuff that you can do in the development platform now, which we will then see coming in apps over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months' time, is truly breathtaking. So, I mean, absolute kudos and hats off, and it's to Apple for doing this. And it is absolutely clear they are not backing away from this. That yes, they didn't launch the glasses that some people thought that they were going to do this year, but I'm not surprised, because knowing what the technology is like, it would have been a very disappointing experience. But what they're pushing on is the platform. And I know I got roundly criticised in the past for saying that they were at year 10 of a 20-year project. They're now at year 12 of a 20-year project. But goodness me, it's a fun ride. There is only one downside, of course, which is they've just put out a video, an hour and a half long Apple Vision Pro video, all about the singer Bono from U2. And I would say it's appalling, but that would be being generous. It's quite rare to find something quite so self-centered and self-opinionated as this piece of nonsense from Mr. Bono. But there you go.
How was that trying to take advantage of the Vision Pro's capabilities?
Quite a lot of it was actually full 3D immersive.
So it's like you're standing there with Bono
Yes,
and he's
yes,
oh my
and talking
gosh.
in front of you. Yes, which I can see has its upsides and downsides. I mean, the upside bit is the Metallica concert that they put out a few months ago, is absolutely truly blow your socks off, because you are there on the stage with Metallica in their live concert. And I'd never seen, and you remember about a year ago I said I wanted to see live rock concerts with the perspective of you on the stage or flying over the crowd or whatever, and they've done that, and it is as breathtaking as you could imagine. But this interview with Bono, no, sorry, pass, thank you.
Yeah. No, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If you think about how people make money, sports is huge, online gambling is huge, other areas of entertainment are huge. Let's just say movies. So that's surely where you want to be investing it. But documentaries or interviews, long form interviews, are not where the money is, or the interest in it is. So I'm just a bit bewildered by that. Anyway. Nick, so not everyone listening will know, I guess, that Nick used to edit a British magazine called Mac User. So, Nick, what do you think of this in terms of Mac innovation?
What specifically Vision Pro? Because it's not. I think it's sidestepping, isn't it? I mean, the whole ecosystem is coming together. It's looking far more similar across every platform. Which I think is a great thing, because you've got that familiarity. When you've learnt it once on iPad, for example, you know exactly how Vision. Well, I don't know whether I would know how Vision Pro works. Actually, I've never used it. The concept just seems a bit weird to me, that it's there even though it's not really there. I'm used to working on a screen, whether it's in my hand or in front of me, and having a flat defined surface where reality ends and pixels begin. But in terms of knowing how a platform works, I think Apple has always done really well. People talk about that ecosystem idea, and it has always done really well, because it controls both the hardware and the software and many of the apps that run on them, in building something that for most people, including me, feels a very logical experience. As you know, I use Linux quite a lot, and I find that very different, obviously, to using the Mac, and I'm on the Mac as I'm talking to you at the moment. But I use different platforms for different things. But for anything that's beyond just writing, I tend to step away from Linux. Most of my day is spent in Linux because of the writing, but anything that's graphical or creative, or maybe even consuming media, I would much rather do that on my Mac. So I think if I could, I've randomly gone off on some tangent here, but if there's a way of doing that within Vision Pro that enhances it for me, but it still feels familiar to the environment that I already am using, then I can certainly see the reason John might be a bit excited about it.
There's one thing I was going to say, which is the rumor mill is very hot about the specs of the Android VR that's coming out, hopefully at the end of the year, possibly even time for us, Tim, at CES in January, which is Android's VR platform running on Samsung hardware. And the specifications that seems to be swirling around, and of course, no one can say whether it's true or not, but it seems to be, in terms of screen resolution and capabilities, very similar to what Apple delivered 2 years ago. And this is competition is going to be great in this space. It'll be very good to see Android VR and Samsung coming together with their take on this kind of capability.
John, what would be most important there, though? Sorry, Tim.
That's fine. Go ahead.
What would be most important? What would be most important, though? Is it the specs that really matter, or is it the software? Because at the end of the day, you could have, a great screen, brilliant sound, but if the software is not quite there and it's not up to the Apple experience, then it may find it difficult to compete, even if someone is not yet already an Apple fan.
Well, the specification that Apple went with for Vision Pro as a piece of hardware is clearly good enough, and is clearly very high end, compared to other types of VR headsets that they've been, especially in the gaming space. So the resolution is extraordinary. The reach out and touch is amazing. The hand tracking on and so forth is astonishing. They've got this new thing called Persona, which is basically the virtual head and shoulders, which it generates of you. And so you hold the headset in front of you and it takes photographs of you and video and a depth camera of you. Then it does the eye tracking from the eye tracking inside the head, and it uses the LiDAR depth tracking stuff for all of your sort of mouth and movements in front of you. And it is absolutely breathtaking. I mean, you can stick your tongue out and move it around, and it's there on the Persona. You can wink, you can raise your eyebrows, you can smile without your teeth or whatever. So I mean, we're smiling with showing your teeth rather than not smiling with no teeth. And I showed it to a colleague a couple of nights ago, and the conclusion was that I could quite happily be in a sort of a Teams meeting or something like that, and I reckon a substantial proportion of the people wouldn't know it was the real me, but it was actually a truly synthetic avatar that was being built on the fly. It's that good, and that's coming in Vision 26. Is just yet another component that's coming onto the platform that they're now ready to ship out the door.
So, with all this innovation, John, and clearly you're very taken by it, why do you think that it's not actually that enthusiasm is not exactly spreading into our mainstream? So, for example, if I look at the Discord chat, apart from one excellent joke by Ninja Nurse, there is not much there that says, yes, I'm behind this. In fact, I can't see anything there.
I'm not
For
surprised.
example, Mike the Cyclist says, I may be a lone voice, but AR, VR, anything sends me to sleep.
Well, okay, go try this. I mean, I sorry, I didn't see that comment. So my immediate question would be, how many hours have you spent inside this? How much stuff have you done playing around with it? I'm not in any way surprised. It's not supposed to be a mainstream product at the moment. This is kind of where the marketing position got a bit skew with. They wanted to put it out into the shops so that they could get people to have demonstrations and to play with it and experience it, not necessarily to buy it. And you remember we've talked about this before, that they were limited on the number they could make in a year by the number of panels that Sony could make. And it would appear that they've quite happily sold all of that. You know, and it's been primarily for the Apple development teams internally to actually have a common platform across all of those groups to come together on one thing. Then for the external people out in developer land. And there is a whole huge bunch of new APIs and capabilities to come to play with in this space. And then high-end people out in media land and UI development and stuff, people like me who are really interested in this tech and seeing what really can be done when you push the boundaries. It's certainly not for Joe Blow, and I said this, you know, the day that I bought it, whatever it was, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. This is not a mainstream product. We need a thinner, lighter one. We need a cheaper one. We need a version that works through transparent glasses and so forth, but at high resolution, not the sort of the horrifyingly bad bit of green screen crap that we were seeing at CES earlier in the year. And this is a long journey, and that's why I just reiterate that we're on, you know, we were then on year 10 of 20, we're now on year 12 of 20, and there's a whole range of stuff to come out of this work. But when you have got the hardware today, maybe do transparent glasses that are really convincing, you can't just suddenly magic up the whole platform development ecosystem, APIs, hand tracking, accelerometers. You've got to have got all of that stuff working, and that's what they're doing now.
Yeah, and you're right, John. This is echoed in every piece of technological innovation that's from the year dot. You know, so for the first 10 years, people weren't using lovely IDEs to program. They were, you know, with the very first, they were plugging in cables, and then they moved actually into using code. So, you know, and now we got to where we are now. Darian, I feel that you've not had a chance to say your piece. This is it.
Well, that's very generous of you. I mean, really, it's that I've had nothing to say. I get that Vision Pro is a very impressive tech demo. I'm still waiting for the application of it that I care about. I mean, I hear, yes, it's a great way to consume a film. I hear it's nice that if you're on a plane, you can call up well, it's actually kind of the same use case. You can call up a big virtual screen and have, as many Excel spreadsheets as you want and work in that kind of immersive way. But there's nothing to it that I think is particularly arresting, and I feel like I've seen this trajectory before, but I can't quite think where it is. But I've definitely seen some very impressive technologies be pushed and pushed and pushed and developed and developed and developed. And to be fair, I know Apple isn't pushing this in the way it's pushed, some other technologies lately. This isn't a rerun of the smarter Siri debacle. But they're really throwing a lot of effort into this, and I do not see what the end game is. I don't see what it is that's going to persuade everybody and their dog when they go into the Apple shop in, well, as John says, 8 years' time, to be like, yes, we need one of these for our home. Maybe I'm just too blind.
Have you trundled into Cambridge Apple Store and had their 40-minute demo?
No, there's nothing about the demo there's nothing that makes me want to.
Well, I think you should. Otherwise, you're basically saying I don't like it because I've never tried it.
Well, no. I think what I'm saying is I don't think it'll catch on because they don't have they're not able to communicate why I should try it.
So, just one use case that Ninja Nurse has brought to us, because for people who, well, actually it's in the name, isn't it? You'll be able to guess where Ninja Nurse works, what sector of the industry. I frequently send letters to consultants to seek advice, he writes. The quality of advice that I get back is largely as a result of the quality of description and the detail I can provide in my letter. Imagine being in my GP consulting room and being able to have a consultant in the room via Vision Pro or similar. Expertise at your instant fingertips.
Oh yeah, I mean this was sold as a use case for the Google Glass, wasn't it? And then the HoloLens and all these things. I've been to lots of Intel presentations when they were pushing that kind of immersive telepresence for specific industrial applications. Very, very valuable. But obviously Apple is really big on the consumer side, and that's where I'm not quite seeing it.
Okay, let us move away gently for this one for now. Because there is stuff to talk about VPNs.
There is. Well, I think that's it's not really about VPNs. I mean, it is and it isn't. So this is really to do with China, the old thorn in the side of kind of internet privacy and neutrality, because no matter how far a Chinese tech company might go to show its good faith and to reassure us that they're on the up and up, and you might have the best reputation in the world, but it's a fact of politics that the Chinese government reserves the right to require Chinese businesses to share information on a request. So you cannot ever fully trust a Chinese business with your information in the way that you might trust, say, a Panamanian one or one based in the British Virgin Islands. Now, obviously, you don't know, nevertheless, that you can trust, who is it, NordVPN or somebody who are based in, these very privacy-friendly jurisdictions, because there might be any number of other things. They might just be a bit sloppy one day, or they might have some industrial espionage going on where someone is able to get at their records despite their best efforts. But if you are, all things being equal, if you're given the choice, you probably don't want to trust a VPN based in China with all of your private sensitive browsing. Now, unfortunately, this is what might have been happening because it's been discovered by the Tech Transparency Project that there are more than a dozen VPN and private browsing apps available on both the Apple Store and Google's Google Play for Android, which are in fact based in China, but do not disclose this on the download page. Several of them are specifically operated by a Chinese company called Qihoo 360, which has a checkered reputation. It's not been actively spreading malware, but it has done some things which are a bit questionable in terms of, playing a bit fast and loose with terms and conditions, allowing itself to install things on your computer if you click through, that sort of stuff. Maybe par for the course for Chinese businesses. Maybe that's a very unfair comment. Not a great look for a security company, though. So really, it all just comes down to you have to think very, very hard. And this is always true. This would have been true without this story about who you're trusting with your data, because trust is is always going to be breakable, and once it is broken, you often can't get that genie back in the bottle. So although it's very easy to say, "Oh, just use a VPN," which VPN you choose could make a big difference.
And if only there was a magazine on sale right. This feels like a pre-calculated plug, but honestly, we're not that slick. So issue 370 of PC Pro is out on the newsstands now. It's got the best VPNs for everyone in it, where KG, our kind of expert tester of these things, has given us the lowdown of the current landscape. And obviously, to even make the grade, to even be included, you have to be highly reputable. So yes. Anyway, if you are interested in getting a VPN, and I'd say there are more reasons to get a VPN now than ever before, then that is the magazine to buy. Mr. Honeyball, you have a question.
Yeah, well, it's not really a question. It's just more like a snotty opinion, which is that the whole
That's what we should rename this: the PC Pro snotty opinions.
Yes, I know, it sounds good, doesn't it? VPN, virtual private network. If it's not private, you don't use it. Now, if the only way I can be sure that something is private is when I control both ends, the end on my laptop and the end that it attaches to the broader internet. These kind of services, I'm sure many of them are very reputable, and I will have to rush off and read the article to see which ones have been tested and thoroughly probed and so forth. But as a general principle, if I don't control both ends of that pipe, I'm not going down the pipe.
Yeah, and you're right, because in the sense that you are absolutely, and this is a point that Darian is making, really, to put words into your mouth, Darian, that you are that you're handing over everything to this company, so they can see that all the stuff that was previously not visible, or was only visible to the ISP, is now only visible to them. Fantastic. So you just handed over this trust that you probably have, for example, if BT is your supplier, has now been passed on to another person. So just be very, very careful when you do that. This is not something to do casually. This is something to do with research. Okay. I think, just looking at the time, I think we should move on to the exciting worlds of nibs. Unless, Nick, you have something you're desperate to say.
No.
We need some sort of visual cue, don't we? Like a I'm bored. I wish you to move on. So, all right, nibs. First one is actually with you, Nick.
Yeah, this is Pulsar, which is a new constellation that's just going into production at the moment of satellites that will be augmenting, hopefully, GPS in the future. There's going to be, at the moment, there are 24 satellites in the GPS constellation and a few spares in case one breaks down. These satellites are going to be 12,000 miles closer to Earth than GPS, which means they're all going to cover a much smaller area. And the reason for that is that they will be about 100 times stronger. So they'll be much more difficult to disrupt, which is really important because they're used for things like self-driving taxis, self-driving cars, and much more difficult to jam, which obviously if you're in a war zone and hoping to get a drone to a particular place, also you'd like to be fairly sure about. But they're going to be accurate more or less down to the centimeter level, which is what they're needing for cars to navigate around humans without running them over, whereas GPS is accurate to about the meter level, which is good enough for getting a bomb in the right place. So because they are so much lower and they cover such a small area, they're actually going to have 256 of these satellites flying around at about 250 miles above our heads. So they are going to be much, much lower, obviously well out of danger level, but they should be augmenting GPS, hopefully by about 2030.
Yep. Well, let's just hope they don't contribute even more to the space debris problem. But I'm sure they have considered that. All right. Specs, please, Darian.
Yeah, so in issue 367, I had a lovely 4-page feature about PCI Express, and we haven't had any features about PCI Express for the past 5 months, so I'm sorry if you've been missing this technology. Happily, we do have some news now. PCIe 7.0, as I predicted, has been ratified before the end of 2025, well before the end, it turns out. They raced it to the finish line. So now it will be possible for people to manufacture motherboards and components that communicate at up to 256 gigabytes per second up and down. So combined throughput of 512 gigabytes a second. And as a victory lap, they've already released the tentative spec, I was going to say the spec for PCIe 8, which is aiming for 1 terabyte per second. Can that even possibly be right? That's insane. But of course, back in the real world, I think Tim will confirm that we've yet to see anything using PCIe 6, let alone these new things. And PCIe 5 is even unnecessary for most applications. So this is a case of generating headroom well in advance of anyone coming up with a use for it.
Yeah, well, we have in high-end laptops and PCs, you're now starting to see Gen 5 SSDs. But frankly, as you say, Darian, for the current usage, Gen 4, especially a good Gen 4 SSD, as in is going to be more than capable. It's not going to hold you up, basically. So it's by no means a reason not to buy a PC or a Mac, because all the Macs are still using Gen 4. So yeah, thank you for the update. All right, John, job losses.
Yes, it's quite across the board, it would appear. Amazon has said that they're going to shrink the size of their workforce in the future. There's a lot of generative AI tools, agents, stuff like that, and of course there's the obvious flashy stuff of the robotics stuff. But but they're saying they're going to cut employees fairly across the board, which is going to be painful. Intel is saying they're going to cut between 15 and 20% of their workforce in July, and there's just over 100,000 employees in Intel. So that's 15 to 20 odd thousand people who are going to lose their jobs, according to these reports of an internal memo that has been seen. And I'm also reading that Microsoft is, of course, just starting its new financial year, and that's the time at which they typically lay off people. In May, they laid off 3% of their workforce, which was some 6,000 people. So this is the cuts that are going to be coming. They said fairly recently that upwards of 30% of the code that's being generated for their projects is now being generated by AI. And that's quite a frightening figure if you think in terms of it's got to be good enough to meet the bar to be production ready, you hope, obviously. And if that's the case, then a lot of middle-level coders and so forth in these companies are potentially looking at a bleak future.
I was going to say thank you. Didn't seem quite the right phrase for that one, but you know what I mean. All right, now I've just uploaded our final nib, which is hopefully, I don't know if it's actually worked, but it's a video of Barry that was generated by Midjourney Video. This is on our Discord server, pcpro.link/Discord. It may work, it may not, but anyway, if it does work, then you'll see like a 5-second video generated by Midjourney Video of Barry walking away with huge Freddie Mercury style teeth and turning his back on the camera. It's deeply disturbing, and I'm sure at some point he'll tell us more about it, but anyway, just thought I'd give it a brief mention if I need to show a picture of Barry. Okay, hot hardware of the week is a £7,000 computer. So you're probably wondering what you get for £7,000, and it's a surprising amount. I'm going to post a link into this this forum. Where's it gone? There we are. So this is the PC. It's made by Chill Blast, and it is It's got all the top-end components in it, as you might expect, for 7,000 quid. So think AMD Ryzen 9 9950 X3D processor, the fastest gaming processor out at the moment. It's also got the RTX 5090 in it. So it's got 64 gigabytes of RAM, and for the record, a Gen 4 SSD, but at least it's a 4 terabyte one. So the thing here is that it's water-cooled, but it's actually all water-cooled. Most of the time when you get a water-cooled PC, that only refers to the CPU, and it's an enclosed all-in-one system. It's relatively basic, relatively small. This one is the GPU is also cooled, So that means that you need to have a shared area, they call it a distro plate, where you have the water. But what really matters is that this is actually beautiful. And I do think it is beautiful, certainly to my eyes, and I think to many of our readers and listeners' eyes, I hope, and to anyone viewing on YouTube. It's spectacular. And if you visit the link I just put down, or search for Chill Blast Poseidon, you'll see it, and there are lots of lovely photos, because my words will not do it justice. But you've got, as I'm about to demonstrate, what you do have is a lot of. It's all assembled in a very nice looking case, but what really matters is that you can see both sides of it. So from the front and from the side, it's all clear glass, tempered glass, and you can see the tubing that they've put together, and it's just really high quality. Everything about this, it's proper craftsmanship. It looks spectacular, and obviously when you put on the RGB lighting, and actually it's all obviously toned together to work work in partnership with each other, it really does look amazing. And I must admit, I love it. So there we go. And it's completely ridiculous, just to say also, because just a month ago I reviewed another PC with very similar specs, same core specs, and it had the same speeds pretty much in all the games I tested, which was a quite ridiculous level of performance. So any game you care to think of, you will get 100 plus frames a second at the highest detail settings. It just won't be an issue for a good couple, 2 or 3 years. Part of the package is that you will actually, Chill Blast will clean and refresh this for you as part of your £7,000 price. But if you pay an extra £400, and frankly, if you're spending this much, you might as well, then they will flush out the coolant, so you can have a different colour of coolant, and they will also look at all things that may be just getting a bit of wear and tear and replace them. So, for example, the radiator pipes, let's say. Yes, it is a ludicrous system. It is supremely fast. The water cooling makes it no faster than a normal PC, so this is for show, but it's what a show, basically, is what I'm saying. Questions from the floor?
You just answered my one. I was going to say, does the water cooling actually make any difference? And I feel kind of vindicated to know that it doesn't, because I'm just putting together a feature about cooling for next month's PC Pro, and you can all look forward to my cynicism then.
Yeah, I'm sure that if I think for this one, what they've really done is they set out to create something really good looking. I'm sure you could probably, if you were working out what is the most efficient way to cool a CPU, there may be a way to do it with water cooling. It probably is, but frankly, the quality of the air coolers that we now get in high-end PCs are so very good that I just don't see it as being such a huge issue. I remember, by the way, Darian, this is going back many years, a 800 megahertz AMD processor being overclocked by a Watford-based manufacturer who, unfortunately, whose name disappears from my head. But they didn't just water cool it; they absolutely they cryogenically cooled it with nitrogen, etc.
Ah, yes.
All this kind of dry ice kind of emerging from this as it worked.
Yeah, well, that stuff. I mean, liquid nitrogen, I believe, is liquid at minus 196 degrees C. I didn't have that off the top of my head. Like I say, I've just been researching this. So the machinery you're going to need to cool it down to that is probably going to spoil the lovely sleek lines of whatever computer you're otherwise using.
Yeah, and I should just say, actually, water cooling in general, in the servers world and data center world, water cooling is coming in because it is a very efficient way of doing it. So there is definitely merit in it, but and it also helps to reduce the power consumption, although not as it happens on this occasion, because it consumes roughly at just under 1,000 watts at its very peak, but it's probably more important that even at idle, just keep it going. It consumes about 160 watts, whereas the PC I tested the previous month consumed about 110 watts, because the RTX 5090 that's a beast. It really wants a lot of feeding.
Wow.
So yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Why is it only 2.5 gig Ethernet?
It's not. It's actually 5 gigabit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to say, why is it only 5 gig Ethernet?
No, because on its spec page it says 2.5 on that link that you posted.
Okay. No, those specs are wrong. So it uses a.
Is it a different motherboard now? Then that might have explained it.
Yeah, it must be a different motherboard because
Okay.
I'm pretty damn sure, without actually bringing up the specs of the motherboard, again that it's 5 gigabits
Okay.
per second. Yeah. Anything else that you wish to ask me?
How noisy is it?
It's not very noisy. So, but no, but and actually, it is quieter running than the previous month's issue. That is true, John. That's a good point. So even when you do really push it, because there are fans, obviously, because you still get hot air generated. In fact, there are 7 fans. So just to say that it kind of goes against intuition, but the more fans you have in a PC these days, generally the quieter it runs. But even when it really ramped up, it was never noisy. So yes, Tim's replacement of his mini's PC. No, it's okay. So it's not very noisy. So some gaming PCs. I'm getting hassled here on Discord, as I normally am. Some gaming PCs, when they push up, you really can't hear anything. And actually, laptops are the worst for it because they've got obviously they're much more contained. But it's true of some gaming PCs as well that they will absolutely ramp up the fans. And I will let you know if that happens in reviews, but that's not the case here, and it's but so that is a benefit. But really, what you're buying, in the same way, if you buy a luxury car or a luxury watch, you're buying something that you look at each day. It brings you joy. If this leaves you cold, and I suspect I'm going to get a beating when we get the hot or not votes. If it leaves you cold, then that's fine. Don't buy it. I'm not forcing to buy it. But I'm just saying,
Thanks.
if you do like this stuff, it's the sort of thing that honestly you would walk in each day that you walked into your den, your room, whatever it might be, and it will bring a smile to your face because it looks so damn good. All right, there we go. I think I seem to have answered most questions, or people just aren't interested because I'm not getting questions through. So let's just say whether it's hot or not. Does someone mind whipping up the vote on Discord? And in the meantime, I shall ask John whether you think this is hot or not.
Well, the price is a bit sort of robust, isn't it? 7,000 quid. And I guess that's without monitor, isn't it? So you're going to need to... You need to add a monitor. What about, do you get a keyboard and a mouse for that? No?
You don't get a water-cooled keyboard and mouse, I'm sorry.
Well, okay. But nevertheless, I mean, it's a very robust price, but it's a very high spec of machine, without question. And I bought a then equivalent Chill Blast box from Chill Blast about, 2.5 years ago? And it was about $5,000 or something. And of course, it's generation and a half back on the NVIDIA card and so forth. But the thing is an absolute monster. It sort of eats up Windows and spits it out, and its graphics performance on high-end gaming. I mean, I've got it running one of the big gaming Samsung screens at 240 hertz refresh, and it's astonishing gaming platform. Absolutely no question. So this is going to be, 2 more, 3 more generations on from what I bought. So I'm feeling a little bit despondent now because I'm now getting sort of upgrade itch. But considering how rarely I play games on a PC, I think I'm going to be very happy with the one that I bought. But if it's the same company, the same support and so forth, I think people would be very happy with it. They certainly should be.
Okay.
So I'm hot. Sorry.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Nick.
Last time I played games was on my Amstrad. I was playing Harrier Attack and I was probably 15. So it's a not for me, but only because I wouldn't have the need for it. My PC cost £130. I buy second hand where I can, and it does everything I need and will continue to do everything I need for probably the next 2 years. But scrolling down the page, the Vand looks really nice. It's £6,999 as well, also water cooled, but it's got a beautiful Scandinavian inspired wooden front. So if I was going to have one of these off this page, that would be the one I go for.
Well, that is quite a common case, actually. I can't remember who makes it. I think it's Fractal Design, that chassis. And if you read our workstations group test in a couple of months' time, Nick, then you'll see a very professional set that a couple of them will almost certainly use it, because the high-end manufacturers love to use that. So, yeah, you can buy it. Right. So you're a not, is that right, Nick?
I'm a not, but not because it's not because of me, rather than because of it. That sounds like breaking up, doesn't it?
It's fine.
It's a bit harsh.
We understand. Darian?
So I was just looking at the Vans case that Nick brought to my attention, and I really loved it until I zoomed in and saw they've written "Hi Hookah" on the side of it, which I think is trying much too hard. But anyway, back to the one we're actually considering. I've got to say, I know these things are subjective, but you keep saying how beautiful and lovely it looks. I don't think it looks lovely at all. I think it looks bloody ugly. I do. I mean, it's just a personal taste thing, but I'm looking for something compact and simple, and this is very much the opposite of that. And in terms of the performance and the you said that the water cooling really adds nothing except perhaps a bit of quietness. I do have to strongly suspect, and again, this is just me, and you can prove me wrong in a double blind test if you want, but I think anyone who bought this, you could sneak into their house in the dead of night and replace it with a PC that cost half as much, still a super powerful $3,500 PC, and they would never notice any difference in anything they did, except very possibly if they're using this. The motherboard is quite impressive. It does have the standard one's got 2.5 gig Ethernet, but you mentioned there's a 5 gig upgrade. It's got Wi-Fi 7, happy with that. Got all the nice sort of fast latest USB things. That's good. But I think it says a lot about me that's actually the thing I find most interesting about this. And $7,000. I mean, you must be crazy. I cannot imagine. I just cannot picture the sales pitch that justifies this to anyone. I think you have to walk into Chill Blast, if indeed they have a physical shop. I'm not sure that they do, having already decided that you're going to spend as much as a small car on your next gaming PC, and this is the one that makes the biggest statement. But I don't like really anything much about it. So I think I've kind of made clear that I'm a not on this one.
All right, I do understand, and I won't go any further because it's almost 2:10. So I'm a hot, and let us look at the votes. Oh, it's a tie. Oh my god, I don't think we've ever had that before, have we? Absolute tie. So I'm going to call it an even draw, so which I'll take. I don't know. Lee's going to have to really adjust his flowchart. However, never mind. Right, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this week's PC Pro podcast. Well, I think we'll be back next week, won't we?
Yeah, why not?
So until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Alrighty. Oh, it's hot, so I'm going to quickly run around in the garden for a bit.
Everything's
See you all
hot.
later.
All right. Thanks, Darren. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.